Hey, shop owners, welcome to the Garage Grid Live. I'm your host, Brad Herlock, co-owner of AA Shop Marketing, where we help independent auto repair shop owners turn their real repair shops into real world stories, into marketing or just marketing stories or operational stories that actually bring in the right people and have the culture for your shop that you need to find. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about a lot of shops that they separate this in their head, but the customers never do. What you spend on marketing and what you invest on the front of your shop, your reviews, your website, your mailers, your Facebook ads, all your SEO efforts, they all promise a certain experience. The second that phone rings or somebody walks through the door, the front counter either confirms that promise or breaks it. And when someone finds you online, reads your reviews, and decides to give you a shot, they're already kind of picturing the experience that they're hoping to get or expecting to get. And when the phone is answered, how you greet them or how you greet them when they walk in, how clearly you explain the recommendations, the costs, that's where the marketing and the operations just collide. And if those two aren't aligned, you're not just leaking car count, you're leaking trust. And so we're also building toward our December. Well, actually, this is building towards our December Shop Owners panel, where we're going to dig into the correlation between what you're putting into marketing and what you're putting into the front of your house, right? The front of your shop, the budgets, the training, the scripting, and how that's going to show up in your ARO, your retention. And I want you thinking that if a stranger walked into my shop tomorrow, would the front of my shop match what they saw online? Would the front of what they saw at the front of my shop match what they saw online on your Google profile, on your website, on your social media? All right. So if you're watching live, drop your name and your shop and where you're listening from. Put that in the chat. If you're catching a replay, give me a like. I'll leave a comment. Share this with another who's trying to connect the dots between the marketing spend and the front counter performance. And now that we've talked about what's coming on the Garage Grid podcast, let's real quick talk about what has recently been published. And because maybe you're not subscribed, you should have already been notified and have listened to those 2 new episodes, right? But if you're not subscribed and you're not getting the notifications when they come out, most of them are dropping on Tuesdays and Thursdays of every week, except for like holidays and whatnot. And so you might not even know how much gold was in Jeremy and Kristy's story. Those are 2 different people, 2 different shop stories. Tune into the Garage Grid podcast Origin and Impact series. And let's talk a little bit about what really clicked inside of these podcast conversations. All right. The first one's with Jeremy from BAT or Bat Boys in Branson, Missouri. And on paper, that starts like a very familiar story. Some of you are going to resonate with this. Dad built a solid, debt-free, word-of-mouth shop, but it topped out around $700K. And the landlord gave a curveball, forcing the decision as far as where the business was going to go next. Most shop owners in that situation might quietly downgrade the customer experience to save a few bucks. But in that episode, you're going to hear what Jeremy did instead. How one big, scary building decision turned into the dealer alternative brand that looks nothing like a mom and pop. And that's the case when you pull into their lot. That's the case when you walk in. And you're going to hear this tourism-heavy market. Picture these spring breakers, these summer tourists, these locals who need to get work done on Monday, all competing for the same space on the schedule. And in the podcast, Jeremy actually walks through the exact questions that his counter team asks on every call. So if you're in a tourism area, then you need to be listening to what Jeremy has to say. His counter is asking on every call, how they're deciding who they're for and which customers are the right choice and all those things. So you go listen to the episode, check it out. And it shows up in their Google reviews. It shows up in their ARO. I'm not going to give you out their invoice strategy or their loaner story here, but those are also 2 pieces to the whole picture. Again, go listen to that episode of Jeremy on the Garage Grid podcast, and you'll see how marketing and operations and marketing and front of house actually lock together. There's also a conversation, another episode with Frank and Kristy from F&L Tire and Service in Pennsylvania, and they didn't inherit a Well, nobody in neither of these stories inherited a shiny new building, but they took over a somewhat tired 5-bay tire store and with a car wash out back. And so in this episode with Frank and Kristy, Frank explained how he used long-term vendor relationships to buy himself some breathing room, and they slowly turned Just Tires into a true service brand. And while a simple shift in how they talk about tires completely changed the sales conversation. So I want you to listen to their story is two things. Number one, the way they changed a basic oil change into a paid structured car care package, and the decision they made about Saturdays. There's a moment where, by all conventional wisdom, they should have taken a sales hit, but instead something very different happened. Maybe I gave it away a little bit, but go check it out. Go listen to, and you'll learn about their customers' reactions. They'll learn about how the front of the shop matched the promise that they were making. On top of that, Kristy at the counter has become kind of part of the brand in a way that you can't fake. Whether you hear her describe how women, when you hear her describe how women respond to having another woman at the front of the shop who can talk about inspections and budgets and maintenance in plain language, you'll see why I keep saying the front counter is part of the marketing equation. It's not just service advisors or customer service. So after this live is over, I want you to go listen to those 2 episodes. All right, with BAT boys or BAT boys in Branson and F&L and Tire in Pennsylvania, and pay attention to the building, the bay count, the hours, the loaner cars, the way they talk about money at the counter. Then look at your own shop and ask, if I was a stranger on my website and then I was a stranger walking through into my shop, is there a match? Yes or no? Let's pull this back and talk about what you need to see digitally change on your shop and on your presence. Let me give you a couple of quick marketing tips. Number one, first, understand that your Google listing and your website should tell the truth about your capacity and your model. If you've got a multi-bay purpose-built shop, it shouldn't look like a 3-bay cinder block garage. All right. Let's say how many bays. Maybe you say how many bays you have, but the goal isn't just to put the number up there. The goal is to communicate that you've got the capacity to handle their particular needs. All right. If you've got loaner cars, feature that. You've got the capacity to help them to not have the inconvenience of waiting. Put the photos out there. Put the copy out there. If you're closed on weekends by choice, explain in one simple sentence so you can attract the people who respect it instead of the people who fight it. Build at least one page or section around your main differentiator. All right. Now, so many shops use the phrase, dealer alternative. That's fine. It's a fun, catchy phrase. Use it, but prove it. Prove it with social proof. Prove it with pictures on your website, in your profile, and then by all means in person at your front counter. All right. For Frank and Kristy, it's the car care package and a clear, family-friendly in the front of counter experience. Those things should have their own paragraph, their own headline, their own call to action, and not just a passing mention. Third tip, all right? Treat technician recruiting as a story, not as a job posting. I really like the way that's worded. I want you to think about that. Think of it as a story, not a job posting. All right. Now, both of these shops use schedule and culture and stability as hooks to try to find new people. If you want good text to find you, your careers page should read more like this. Here's how many bays we have. Here's how we schedule. Here's what a week in this shop actually looks like. Again, you're telling a story. You're walking them through so they understand how it is to work there. You're marketing the employment of working there. Maybe even have a video, real photos. Don't just do, we're hiring a mechanic, level A, X, between a pay range of X to Y. That's just another generic ad that they've all seen. Why don't you go look at the competitors that you have in your area that are posting content and seeing how they are advertising for their technicians? And here's the real tip. Do it differently. Make your ad stand out by doing something different when it comes. Tell that story a little bit better. All right. So if you're trying to figure out your next marketing move, whether it's to market to employees or whether it's to go to marketing for customers, and you don't know what your next best step is, I'll tell you. All right. All you have to do is go out to addi.me/jumpstart, addi.me/jumpstart. You give me your name, your shop names, basic information, and you select the free version. And our team will go out and do that research for you and find out, because I don't think the answer is the same for everybody. So I'll find out your population density. I'll find out the size of your shop. I'll find out those types of things. I'll come back to you and say, here's where you're missing. Here's your weakest link, right? Here's your next step to fix. And I'm happy to help. And that was at addi.me/jumpstart, addi.me/jumpstart. And let's make sure that we jump into 2026 with that in mind. All right. We've been through, we've talked about the coming shop owners panel in December of 2025, about the correlation between marketing and the what you're pouring into with the front of your shop. We just talked about the most recent publications of the Garage Grid podcast between Bat Boys in Missouri and FNL in Pennsylvania. Marketing brings people in, but the process and the people that you have in your shop keep them coming back. And when the building and the bay count and the hours and the loaner program, the invoices, the person at the counter, they're all match that promise that you're making in the online, that marketing promise. You don't have to yell as loud to win. Customers feel the alignment and they stick. If you're looking at your own shop thinking, we actually have a great story and nobody online can see it, and that might be your cue to bring in a marketer and not another, and kind of go from there to help you with telling that story. You need someone to be able to turn that story into a brand that sells. And that's the kind of work that we do. And you can start your efforts by going to addi.me/jumpstart. All right. If you are interested in sitting in on a panel in January or February of 2026, then hop over to addi.me/join panel, addi.me/join panel. And that's where we're going to be. Actually, I haven't decided yet what those topics are going to be in January and February. So if you have some ideas, I'm happy to hear them from you. You can drop them in the chat right now, or you can reach out to me directly. We've kind of boiled down a handful of topics that I'm playing with, and we're going to decide here shortly. But if you think you have a story to tell and you want to be a part of the conversation, addi.me/join panel. Make sure you subscribe to the Garage Grid podcast on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Keep sending in your questions, your stories, and I will see you next time on the Garage Grid Live. All right. So we're talking about clicks, cars, and customers. Have a good day.